Hello and welcome to day 7 of my craft room clear out series, using my stamp sets one last time before I say goodbye. Now I'm Sarah Jane from Cards and a Cuppa, and today we're going to be using Stampin' Up's The Gang's or Meer, which is a celebration stamp set, where it was many years ago. But look at those images, they are so cute. So I'm going to do some watercolouring with the meerkats, and I'm going to use this cactus as well, I think, and build a little sit on that little chameleon thing. Anyway, so because I'm going to be using watercolor paper, which is not completely smooth like Whisper White, I'm going to use my Stampin' positioning tool. I've had a quick look, I'm not sure they still sell this, but I've still got mine, so I'm going to use it. And this watercolor paper is it's not too bad, it's quite good quality one, so it's fairly smooth. It's Canson Aquarelle, not sure how you say it, but yeah, it's quite good for stamping fine images on. If it's just a background one, then it doesn't matter so much, I don't think, if it's a bit rough. But yeah, so let's do that. But I think because it's watercolor paper, then I might have to stamp these a couple of times, which is why I thought I'd use the stamping tool to go with it. And I've actually stuck the stickers on this one, which I don't normally do, but I don't know, I must have been feeling it when I did that. So I think that'll do for now. Might put another cactus in a second. So position your stamps, fold over the plate from the top, and then I'm going to use stays on for this, because I'm going to just use my water brush and watercolor these images. And so if it doesn't stamp perfectly the first time, I can always re-ink and re-stamp, and they'll be in exactly the same position. So it's quite a handy little, yeah, it's a bit pale, which I sort of suspected with the watercolor paper. Also good if you struggle to hold the blocks in your hands, if you've got, you know, arthritis or anything in your hands, they're also good for that. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll try and get that little hat on the meerkat's head. Perhaps I'll do that after I've watercoloured though. So let me just move this out of the way. Okay, so I've got a little scrap of the same watercolour paper here to use to try and build up a few different colours. My ink pads that I have, I've got soft suede, cinnamon cider, early espresso and Sahara sand. And I'm going to make a little palette up on a clear block so that they're a similar colour, but they're not all the same. So I think we're going to go with a base of the lightest, which is Sahara sand, and then add a bit of the other colours in to each one as I'm doing them. So watercolour brush, and so this is just a aqua brush, so I'll moisten it up a little bit to get it going. Choose I think I'll go with crossing over on the ink pads here a bit. I'm going to go with the basic colour on the first one, and I'll go for this little fella here. Some and then clean the aqua painter off in between. And so I might add a little bit of the one's the cinnamon cider into the next fella. Clean the brush so I don't contaminate the ink pads. A little soft suede. This one here, oh, he's quite dark, isn't he? Okay, spread that out so it's not too dark. Might just dab his face off a little bit. A bit kitchen roll. That's better. A little early espresso. For the guy in the centre. Trying to avoid his teeth. I'm going to dab his tummy. And then a bit of, what's that one? Soft suede and cinnamon cider for the guy at the end. Might mix a little grey granite in to make the floor, and then just mix up a bit of all of the inks for the ground. And rather than use the watercolour brush, the water brush, I'm going to use a blender pen because then it'll be wet but it won't smudge the rest of the ink. Just gives them a little rosy glow to their cheeks. So I'm just going to trim that up and see what size we end up with, and then we'll figure out a layer from there. So I think 9, and then I'm just going to tidy the edges up. And that's 13.8 across, which means I can leave a little border and then something longer at the bottom. Let's have a look. Maybe do, yes, so I'll do a balmy blue card base, which is going to be 14.8 score at 10.5. And then a crumb cake layer. So what do we say that was? That was 13.8. So we'll trim that at 10.5, because then we can use the other half of it for a card base. Move that out of the way. So then we'll do 14.3, which gives a 5mm gap at the sides. And then I've got some little scallop edge die, so I might die cut along the bottom there. Here we are. So these are called basic borders dies. What ones will we use? Quite like the little chevron look. Let's see if that's going to work. Yep, I think we could get that out of there. So back to the old post-it note label and stick that onto the crumb cake layer. Make sure it's straight, using the bottom V section so it runs along the edge of there, and then stick that firmly onto the card base, the card layer, and I'll die cut that now. So it does leave you with this little offcut, which I might use inside the card actually. Seems a waste just to throw it away. Take that off of there. And then I'm just going to stick that onto that layer there. Use quite a lot of glue because watercolour paper is quite thick, so I want to make sure it sticks properly. And I found this little bit of white ribbon. It'd be quite nice to like staple a little piece of that to the top corner. So what I'm going to do is cut a piece of the ribbon and then cut it into a V. Yep. I'm going to put 2 in it, I think. Oh, lovely, yeah. So we'll do that, and then that will go on there. Stamp that on a piece of crumb cake card, and I'll stamp that in early espresso so it's not harsh, and not quite as harsh with the black on the crumb cake layer. Perfect. And then I might punch that out with a little scallop circle. So yesterday, while I was making this card, my camera battery died and I didn't quite realise. So I'm just going to show you the rest of the card make, but it is slightly broken up. So I did stamp the sentiment and I cut it out, punched it out with a 1 3/8 inch scallop circle punch. And then I ran the sentiment through the early espresso ink pad and added that sentiment onto the card with a dimensional. And then I added 3 of these cute little pom-poms, just from an assorted pom-pom set, which I had, and I added them in the end on top of the staples. And for that, to add them on, I used some of the Ranger Multimedia Matte adhesive and then stuck the card front onto the card base. So that is the card, slightly broken up, but that is the card completed and finished. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube and follow me on Facebook and Instagram so that you get to stay up to date with every day's makes. And I hope you've enjoyed today.